Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Hospod Wrestling Experience Podcast, brought to you by Endicott Coffee, where I'm going to be honest, really excited today for this guest. And but before we get to our guests, bring to you the man, the leader of all the Haas holes, Charlie Haas. What's going on?
Good evening and morning, or wherever the hell you are, man. This is Charlie Haas, the leader of the Haas Hole Nation, and man, this is man this is gonna be one of the best ones we've had done because one, it hits close to home. He means a lot to me in my heart. We've been through a lot together. He was there from the beginning, this is a Jason Sensation, man, and I am excited to tell his story and to relive some of the stuff that me and my brother did with him. So let's bring him on in there, man. I'm excited.
Oh, this is so exciting, folks. Endicott Coffee bringing to you one of the most talented individuals in the history of professional wrestling. Please help us welcome Jason Sensation. What's going on, Jason?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me on, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. Great to see you again. Love you, Charlie. Thank you.
Oh, I love you, man. Dude, I'm so excited about this, man. I mean, I can't wait to tell the story. So, everyone out there, I met Jason when Russ and I signed with WWE, and it was WWF at the time, and we were sent to Memphis Championship Wrestling under Terry Golden, and we worked on Power Pro down there with Jerry Lawler. And the stories we have, I mean, and they will go into detail of who was with us when, so because some of the top names in the business were broken in down there with us. And man, and Jason, I met Jason. The first time I met Jason, Russ and I were at the we're at the school where Memphis Championship Wrestling was. And we're waiting to meet everybody. And here comes Jason and Spanky and Brian Kendrick. He was down there. And we're meeting everybody. And all of a sudden, here comes Kevin Thorne and Scott Vick. And then a huge fight breaks out. And someone gets put through a wall. And I'm like, Russ goes, man, who do we jump in for? I'm like, no one. We just sit here and we just figure this out, man. We're not getting fired. But that's how we met Jason right off the bat. It was something, I think it was Spanky, or Kevin pushed Spanky into the wall. And it was, of course, drywall. And it fucking busted, and it was just that was the first one. That was the first time. That's the first time I met Jason. I said, ever since I go, man, I'm gonna love this guy. It's gonna be great. So,
what an introduction!
Dude, what an introduction, man. I mean, dude, but you remember that? I was like, it was
but
over.
The way I remember it though was when Thorne had me. He kind of had me in the wall. You guys did grab him because it was kind of our size.
Yeah,
was so big that that's when you stepped in, but not in a violent way. It's just you guys grabbed him like, hey, look at the size of this guy. And that was the first time I seen. That was my first introduction to you guys. So I'm like, all right,
you're right,
boys.
You're right.
They got my back.
Because we're like, holy shit. And to come to tell you later, we did I think it was the next week, we did a chair shot angle where Thorne came in and hit me with the chair. And he goes, I know how to take care of you. I'll take care of it. Man, he busted me wide open. I was like, motherfucker, but it was but man, let's tell about like all the people that were down there, because you got down there right before I did, and tell them who was all down there that came from Sean's school at the time.
Yeah, it was Brian Kendrick, as you said, and Brian Danielson, and Lance Cade, rest his soul, and Shooter Schultz. Those four guys from Shawn Michaels school. What great guys! I lived with them too. Wonderful guys. Yeah, love them.
Great guy. Yeah. And I think, man, and Shooter could have gone on. I know he chose not to after they shut Memphis down, but he was a hell of a talent. And he was. Dude, I loved working with him in the ring. But man, I tell you what, you look at Lance and Brian and and of course Spanky, Brian Kendrick and Brian Danielson. Man, I mean, that was our first match. I mean, our first match on Memphis Championship Wrestling that they did over there live was Haas Brothers versus Spanky and American Dragon at the time. And I remember that's what Brian Danielson was going at. And I remember he snapped Mary Russell, kicked him as hard as he could in the spine. And I see Russell, you can go and watch this on YouTube. Russell's like, motherfucker, and got up, man, broke character. Like it was like, of course, it's 9 a.m, man. That's the last thing you want to do. It was like we knew right then that kid was going to lay it in, so it was good. So, but yeah, man. But you were a manager. You were the manager of them at the time, right?
That was a good time. Yeah, we were living together, and freaking, it was kind of cool. It was like a real clique. We were all living together, and I was managing them on that little TV show we were doing in Memphis too. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah, great memories with those boys, of course.
Now, tell us some of the vignettes, like what you guys had set up, because when you and Spanky were good at that, and I mean, the stuff you guys had was comical, man. It was great. People need to go and see this on TV, on YouTube. At
Thanks.
least.
That's true. Yeah, we kind of had a gimmick between. First thing we did was they kicked out Lance Cade of the group. So Lance was the guy we were feuding with, and he was so much bigger than, taller than the other guys that it was kind of like all of us beating up on Lance all the time. But we turned into like a Stooges like the Three Stooges with four guys. So me and Spanky, we kind of played Curly, and Shooter was kind of Mo, and Daniel Bryan was kind of like Larry. So and they were trying to play serious when me and Spanky were all joking around, and we came up with just the goofiest vignettes, just goofing off and joking around all the time. But it was cool they let us do some of that shit. Yeah.
I mean, man, it was so cool. I think a lot of it would probably get over today, because I think you guys were ahead of your time. You're ahead of your time. That's stuff you could see like streaming and stuff, like like these vlogs and stuff.
Right,
because
right.
Dude, this stuff is so good, man. It was hilarious. But before that, man, tell us how you got into pro wrestling, and tell us because your story starts before I met you down in Memphis. I mean, you were a big name on TV at WWF at the time. So let's backtrack and tell us about that.
Yeah, I kind of grew up like a crazy wrestling fan, and maybe I put all my eggs into loving this thing, and I kind of paid my dues by loving wrestling. When I was growing up in school, everybody knew me as the wrestling guy. I would promote wrestling. I was like a wrestling promoter growing up. I would do all my reports on wrestling. I would make sure that wrestling gets put in with the other sports. When Bret Hart was winning the title, I was making it as important in school to be told about as the Blue Jays winning. So it's like I was always loving wrestling and working my way towards it somehow. And the voices kind of just, it was my talent, and it got put into wrestling because I loved wrestling so much. And there were so many wild, over the top characters at the time, Warrior and Hogan and Savage and all these Flair, all these people who had such amazing promo skills that there were just so many voices to do. So it kind of came naturally to mix with my talent, and wrestling kind of went together and kind of organically evolved. And I kind of chased this dream as this kid who could do these voices and just wanted to get in. My hope was to be like a Mean Gene. That was my dream, to be a Mean Gene. And I guess meeting Owen Hart, this girl I was dating at the time, Terry, she introduced me to Owen Hart at a meet and greet, and he loved the impression so much that he wanted to rib the boys in the back. So he took me in the dressing room. It was like every wrestling fan's dream. And he introduced me to all the boys in the back. Upon those introductions, I met some of the office, like Carl DeMarco, who was the Canadian president. And that was kind of like my open door in. I started bucking him, and they liked my talent. So they would get me to do little odd things. And then when Vince and Brett had a feud and Vince came down to Canada to do an interview, Carl DeMarco called me, great opportunity, and said, now's your chance to meet Vince. So I went down and just waited in between this interview where they were really grilling Vince about screwing Brett. And he was like, he wasn't having a good time. And in between the break, they brought me in as comic relief. So it kind of took Vince off of this shitty interview he was doing. He's like, oh, great, Owen Hart. Can you do Shawn Michaels? And so then when, I'm doing these voices, you can just see his eyes light up. I'll never forget the look of finally meeting Vince. But he said, we're going to get you on air, kid. And it really happened. And Vince, I guess when he says something, he means it. So
yeah,
that was like my way in. I got to be grateful to Owen Hart and Vince McMahon and Carl DeMarco. So many people helped me get there, family, friends. It was a whole lifelong achievement.
No, what was the first voice that you were able to do? What was your first voice?
I think Macho Man. Yeah, my older brother Eddie could do Macho Man, so I started doing it like him. And then I don't know, though, the others kind of just came naturally. I didn't even realize I could do more than one. So it's just Flair came by accident, goofing off at my brother. Me and my little brother John would wrestle all the time. So then we do the promos before the matches. So then I'd be doing the voices there. So I guess I was practicing then without even realizing. My little sister Laura called a talk show one in Canada, a local talk show. So my brother's got a hidden talent that he could do voices. I could really only do Savage and Hogan then. And then being on the show, audience were asking me for different voices and I could do them and without even trying for the first time live on air. And that's when I was like, well, maybe I got something here, you know?
Yeah, let's talk about live on air. Let's talk about live on air, your first time, which everyone could watch. And this was, they brought you on Raw, right?
Yeah.
And you were doing the you were there with JR and then the King, Jerry Lawler, of course. And I remember the King. Oh, here, say it again, do that Bret Hart again, you know. And Sean was there as well on the other side of it too. Yeah. And I remember you would do Bret, and then you would do the best there is, and then you hear Sean go, yeah, the best to ever leave or whatever. I mean, just like Bret was like, I mean, Sean was just sticking it to him. But I mean, I'm here watching this. I'm like, this is great, man. I mean, this is huge. And then they kept going back. They were segueing too, where they had the Nation of Domination. I know Farouk wasn't there at the time, but it was The Rock. It was Mark Henry. It was D'Lo, and then it was Papa Shango, or I can't remember what's his name, Charles. Yeah, but I remember you and Owen was there with them, and you have and they do Owen again, you know, making fun of Owen, and that's when Owen came out, grabs you, put you in the ring, and then you know, and that was the first time I encountered you, man. Go through that again. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was just amazing, and that was my first time live on air. The time I debuted, it was a taped show where I dressed up like Owen. But that was true. That was my first time live on Raw, sitting there. And it was overwhelming to say the least. But I got to admit, like, I had this energy about me even from the week before. But getting in, everything was kind of building. So everything was positive, and I had this very, very positive flow about me and faith in myself, and everything was kind of just stars connecting and working well with the way. So I was brave, and I was just outgoing, and I was willing to do it. And I had so much confidence. I think that's the word I'm just looking for. I had so much confidence going into doing these things because it was like a lifelong dream. So I was okay, but I was nervous and it was overwhelming, but I was okay, especially because of how well the week before went. But I'll never forget, Jerry Lawler kept coming up and, hey, it's tough out there when you're out there. Like, you're talking, so sometimes you can get tongue tied. So I'm just going to give you all these jokes, and you just have them in the back of your mind. Just read them. And this was like noon that day, so I had the whole day to practice these jokes and work on them. And Vince Russo and the lines and everything. So anyway, I had all this time to work it out. So everything was pretty much planned to go out there. So I got to give credit to the King. You know, I experienced sometimes people in the build business that would, you know, cutthroat kind of shit on you and make you look bad because they're trying to protect their position. And I would be a huge threat coming in. A guy who does all these voices, look like for someone like Jerry Lawler, and he didn't even think of anything like that. He just helped me out. He's like, let's make the show better. Let's make you better. Let's make me better. And I'll always respect that about Jerry Lawler. Yeah, he really helped me that time. Yeah.
I remember that vividly, that night in particular. And I remember you get put in the sharpshooter too. Did Owen put you in the sharpshooter that night?
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome in itself. You know, that was an incredible moment. And I know just looking back on it now, seeing it, it feels just as good today as it did seeing it back then. So I'm telling you, incredible job, Jason. Like, what incredible memories to have. And I think today even time is so good too that it's even better. Now you were just so far ahead of your time, but what a magical time to get to apply your craft in the business. And man, awesome. So awesome.
I really appreciate that kind word.
How was it working with Owen in the ring? I mean, I know he introduced you, but I mean, because I mean, they're like, I mean, his stuff looks so real. It wasn't see-through. I mean, was he, I mean, was he snug? Was he hurting you? I mean, tell us about that.
Yeah, I'll never forget it because we were talking. He was, you know, Owen, he was so funny. He was just trying to make me laugh the whole time. So he kept coming up to me. He's like, I'm gonna make sure to say your name in that interview. I'll get your name over in there. Okay, Just Incredible. I'm like, no, and like, I mean, this happened 3 or 4 times throughout the day. He'd see me, be like, Just Incredible. I'm going to say your name. And I'm like,
now, was he a big ribber? Was he a big ribber for those that don't know? I mean, tell us about Owen.
Yeah, he just always, you could just see it in his eyes. He had this mischievousness about him, and it was just always going on. The clock was always turning. He was just totally messing with me the whole day. Just incredible. He kept saying it all day. But anyway, it's one of the coolest things for me now, like to have Owen Hart on air saying my name. It's just, I don't know. We have all these memories that I can share, but to have that memory that everybody can share, him saying my name, it's a really cool thing. And he made sure to do it. It's the only time that name ever gets really mentioned in wrestling. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
And it's something too, with looking at that footage. I mean, you got Jim Ross, you got the King, you got Shawn Michaels, you got Owen Hart, and you're commanding a commanding presence amongst those larger than life characters. That says a lot. It says a lot about
and The Rock. And he had,
good.
He had The Rock on there too.
Thank you.
The Rock.
Yeah, good point. That's true. And Hunter.
You had The Rock on there that, is the highest paid actor now, but I mean, that was when he took over, like, this is before he blew up. I mean, so you were commanding everybody, like you said. God, man, you did such a great job that they threw you into DX, became part of DX. How is that? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah. And can you believe that? Like, that's an opportunity of a life. That's that's a main part of why I got over so huge. I could have come out just dressed up like that kid who dressed up like Roddy Piper years ago with the King, or I like it just, but to come out with the most over group in the business, and that's their gimmick, is to, just be heels and degenerates, and they got me, a guy who can do everybody's voice. It was such a cool thing. I got over huge. It put me over huge. So, and I gotta attest that to Hunter and China, because I had met them in Toronto a year before, when I was going through that process of trying to get in, and they were giving me some opportunities, like when they'd come to Canada and do like the home shopping network and things like that. But I met Hunter through Carl DeMarco and China, and they really liked me. They were amazing. And China really took me under her wing, and Hunter really did as well. And so they were really pulling for me. So I had, that time I met Vince, he liked me. And then Hunter and China were already pulling for me. And Owen was the guy who had got me in the door in the first place. So it's like all these stars aligning for me. So I really got to attest that Hunter and China were pushing for me to be in the group with them. So, oh man, that was cool. I knew a lot of cool people then. Yeah.
So who in the group was pushing you out? That's what we want to know.
Well,
that's the stuff that people want to know. I mean, because you always have that. I mean, you do. You have jealousy, like you said. People want to protect their position. So who?
Yeah, and I think for sure that probably came about right away. I think there was probably when that thing got over, I think there was a huge push for me to come out with them all the time now. And I think first one to put his foot down to that was Billy Gunn, but I have a feeling that maybe the whole group probably felt the same way about it. And I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling like the whole company felt the same way about it. And this is when I started doing like hosting house shows. I was going around, and through the hosting of the house shows, I was doing the voices and I was doing gimmicks to get over. And I was noticing that it was starting to rub the boys the wrong way, because I was stealing pops, because I would take heat from Pops. When I do Road Dogg, oh, you didn't know, when he comes out, it's already been done once, And so I started to just get that feeling after the fact, because things just started seeming different, but you never know. You're always wondering in the business. But Billy was the first one, because I know Road Dogg was really pushing for me. He was like, let's get you to be the New Age Outlaws manager. So like China's with Hunter, but you're with the Outlaws. And Billy was like, no fucking way. He's like, no fucking way.
Well, that's got to be kind of challenging though, because on one end of the spectrum, you're being told to do a job and you're doing it well, but at the same time, you're getting heat for doing what you're told. So, managing that, how did you navigate through that time?
Yeah, I think I didn't have enough time on the road. I think good question, but I guess I thought of how I could have navigated it, and that's just not using their actual gimmicks and just trying to use their voices in different ways, and maybe using it to trying humor. But yeah, I never really got enough time on the road to try to craft that out. Yeah.
Well, let's face it. I mean, I love Billy. I think he's a great worker. But out of all those people you mentioned, he had the less charisma out of everybody in the DX group. So I could see why it was stepping up. The only other person I know that has less charisma would be Bob Holly. But and I'll say it to their face. I mean, what are they gonna do? What? I love those guys too, by the way. But I can see. I think Billy developed more when you came in, and he said, "Man, this kid." I mean, you knew you weren't going to wrestle, but ring wise and in the ring with the mic, I mean, it's night and day, And so you may have really helped him, step up, because he got better along the road. And I mean, he's I think it helped his character in the ring. He's just a hell of a wrestler. But when it came to the mic, he dominated. So
there's another aspect to that too. I mean, you talk about how, back then it was very much, there was a lot of hazing. There was a lot, you had wrestlers court, you had all these, a very volatile, toxic environment compared to like the wrestling industry today. But I'll ask you, you and Charlie, this is, when you have those auxiliary personalities that aren't one of the boys, how important is it that they're on the road with you every day? And is there a certain amount of resentment that you hold towards people because they're not bumping and they're only coming for a certain amount of time and they get to go home to their families? Meanwhile, you guys are, on the road every day. Do you think that may have played into some of the heat that Jason and maybe other auxiliary talents may have gotten over the years, especially in that era?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel me and my brother, or even Shelton and I, we were tested. Like, they would try to test us in the ring or backstage, like bump into us. We're at a different level. Shelton and I are like Division I All-Americans. So it's, it was just, we've had a lot of people got thrown through tables, not me. You can say the Miz, like all these guys are coming up and we're getting hazed because they knew they could pick on them. They weren't going to do anything, which was like, and that's what's really sucked, But I think now with the environment, it's changed a lot. Of course, this Jason was in there before they were a publicly traded company. All that changed when it became publicly traded, because you couldn't have that. You had bylaws that you had to answer to, and you had to make sure that these laws were followed for the whole board. The people that invest in your company, they're not going to invest in a company that's, hazing and hurting, it's where work environment's toxic. They're not going to invest their money in that. So Jason was in there at the very end of that. But I mean, he was that he was in there probably with the meanest of them all, And so I mean, he held his own, and that's where my hat goes off to him, because I mean, you have no idea how brutal it was for him. I'm telling the truth though. It's it is. That's the truth. It was right before they went public, and it was a 9-day difference from that.
One of the cool things that I think about, Jason, is the age of pay-per-view. The age of pay-per-view that a lot of people really know nothing about. You hear this, or they're streaming, or this or that. But the age of pay-per-view, 1997, 1998, what an incredible time. Canada versus the U.S., Bret Hart right in the middle of it. Talk about the feeling backstage, the feeling surrounding everything going on then at these great pay-per-views.
Oh, man, it was everyone was really making a lot of money then. Everyone was on this high of making money. It was a really happy time. So there was a huge buzz with all the boys and gals in the back. I mean, everyone was, on edge and working together because of the Monday Night Wars. Everyone was on edge and working together like a team to make it better. And I'll just never forget the sold out crowds and the shattering feeling, even backstage. And this wasn't just the pay-per-views, but it was like Raws and SmackDown were pay-per-views then. They The crowds were unbelievable. The audience was so loud. They were so involved. I mean, you get there and the show's starting. It's 9 and Austin, and it's just rattling and through everybody's body. And I mean, I'll never forget that. And you could see signs throughout. And I'll never forget one time, it was a pay-per-view I went out to. I was at the pay-per-view, but I wasn't working the show. And I went out just to feel the crowd, because the crowd was so amazing during this time. Everyone was so involved. And I'll never forget going out and I'm standing in the crowd, just feeling everything. And I'll never forget, at the moment, I think Deborah McMichael was in the ring and there was something going on about, was her top going to come off or not? And I'll never forget, the chant was, "We want puppies, we want puppies." And I'll never forget families with little kids, and these little kids screaming, "We want puppies." And I'm just like, everybody was just caught up in
Woo, puppies. That's great, man. That is great. Oh my God, man. I forgot about the whole puppies. Oh, man, that's some funny stuff. God, so tell us about, like, so that is right. That was a time before Austin became Austin. Like, were you there when they made that whole year straight? Like, they made him job out for a year straight, right? It was right when he broke away from. And I remember, because we were positioned down in Memphis when the Mean Street Posse was down there, and I remember them beating Austin on TV. Is that, you remember that, Jason? I mean, you had to, you were there for all that stuff.
Oh, you mean I don't know, like, you mean 97 when he was still the ringmaster and whatever?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I just got in. I was just getting in when he was, just taking over as Stone Cold.
Okay.
So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
I just got to watch him rise. Yeah, he was. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. What an incredible time for you, because you were there for the rise of Austin. That must have, and the rise of The Rock too. I mean, as he was coming, that must have been unbelievable. God, man, that must have been great.
Yeah, and it was interesting watching. I'll remember times with The Rock. There was this time I'll never forget. I was going to be impersonating the whole Nation of Domination. And the first time we had talked about the segment, it wasn't going to be everybody dressing up. It was just going to be DX bringing me out to impersonate everybody in the Nation. So they're like, go hang out with the Nation for the next couple shows and get all their voices down, because I didn't know how to do all of them. So it's like, I'm trying to hang out with the Nation guys all the time. I was just like, I was cool with everybody because I was making people laugh, but I was still like a little Mark hanging off all the time. But I'll never forget, they were ribbing The Rock that his promos were no good. And they were like, no, look, they were getting me, do The Rock. What do you say as The Rock? I'm like, I don't know. All you ignorant people. And they're all just laughing and laughing at The Rock. And he was getting so bothered. And so he's sitting there with me. He's like, hold on. Jason, come here. And he sat me down away from them. He's like, I'll train you to do my voice. I got all these things coming out. I mean, these are going to be catchphrases that are going to take over. So he actually sat and told me, smell what The Rock is cooking, people's eyebrow, and some of these things that I hadn't heard yet on air that he had planned, and he was all ready to, like, he was working on his character all the time. His mind was always going. He was always building himself. So he actually trained me to do The Rock before he was doing The Rock.
That's good. Yeah. Now, did you say to yourself, that's never going to work for you, kid? Did you ever tell him that? Or did you say, come on?
No.
Did you say, I don't know, did you ever give him a catchphrase like, I want to go with that smell what your Rock is cooking thing? No one's going to buy. I mean, oh man, what a great time for you, man. What a great time. I mean, you were right there. I mean, The Rock in here is telling you what his vision of his character is, what he's going to do, and he's bouncing it off you. I mean, that's unbelievable. That's a story that people don't know about them. That's what they need to know, man. Oh God. So I mean, we want you to feel comfortable, and I know we want you to feel comfortable. We know every time, and I've watched some of the other podcasts where they want you to do the voices right off the bat. Let me ask you, favorite voice to rib another wrestler? I know one story, but I want you to tell. I think it was like somebody owned a gym. And I can't remember. I think it was Steamboat. And you were calling as Ric Flair. Was that correct? Or maybe I got the story wrong.
No, you're right. Thanks, man. No, when I was growing up, crazy, but I figured out when I was in high school, I figured out Ric Flair's Gold's gym number somehow through 411 or whatever. So I had Ric Flair's Gold's gym number in Charlotte. So it was like I was known as the wrestling guy. I was doing voices all the time at school. Like teachers couldn't stand me. So I had people coming around me to the payphone when I would try to get through to Ric Flair. I would try it all the time. So this one time, my buddy Bernie had me over, and he's like, because I would always have to call collect. Yeah, that's right, from the payphone. So it'd be like, you have a collect call from Macho Man. So usually I would just get a hang up. So this one time I met this guy, Bernie's house. He's like, you can just call long distance. So I call, it's Macho Man for Ric Flair. They put me through to Ric Flair.
Holy shit.
We got this. He's like, Macho Man, what's going on? Ric Flair, hey, what are you doing? What are you calling me here for, man? Well, it's not really Macho Man. It's just like, I'm your biggest fan, Jason. I love you, man. Don't let Hogan ruin everything when he comes in. Okay, thanks for the call. Bye. Anyway.
That's fucking great, man. I love it, man.
Good old days.
Dude, that's I mean, that's something I heard of that. I was like, man, I thought, sorry for getting mixed up, but yeah, I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. I can only Rick. Man, can you imagine? Now some of the things that Aaron and I would do our due diligence. Tell them about the wars on the radio, Aaron, that you saw between Brett and Sean.
Oh man. Without a doubt, Jason, I no doubt about it. It's the best Flair I've ever heard in my life. Like you do Flair better than Flair. Like I kid you not. And I have referenced some of this radio wars to so many people since getting turned on to it. And I can't tell you how much I enjoy it. I'll be in there cooking dinner and I'll turn it on just to hear it. And I'm slapping my leg like this.
Explain what the radio wars were.
My ears have ever heard.
What were the radio wars, Aaron? Explain it to us.
Radio wars, where it looked like was Brett wasn't in on it. Was Brett in on it?
I'm sworn
Jason,
to secrecy, brother. You know what? It was me doing all the voices.
Was it?
I was doing Brett. I was doing Flair. I was doing Piper. Bret Hart is innocent on this.
Oh my God, we thought he was in it. It was so good, we thought he was definitely in on it.
No.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Holy shit. I'm sitting there going, because they're like, well, we know that's definitely Brett, but that can't be. And I'm like, so you did all those voices. Holy shit, man. That is something great, man.
So, that's my story.
So tell us what was that? It was
that is amazing.
So what were the radio wars for some of the fans out there?
It was this mutual friend of me and Brett's, Josh Groberman. He got in touch, and it was just really goofing off. I wasn't really even thinking we were doing anything. But something happened weird. It's funny you bring this up because this is a weird story that explains kind of in a nutshell some of the Rubik's Cube scramble in my brain, the way my brain works with paranoia and thinking of things that might not be true or not, and some of the things you deal with mental illness sometimes. But it's a weird story, but I'll just tell it in the way I know it. I've never got a chance to tell this story, but it's really, it weirded me out. Okay. So when we're doing those radio wars, we decided to do Macho Man one week. And so I'm playing Macho Man on the show, and Macho Man hadn't done an interview in forever. This is a weird story. Sorry, guys, but this is the way, this will help explain the way my Jason scramblation works in my brain. So we did this Radio Wars with Macho Man, and I really regretted it. But anyway, so as I was doing it, I hadn't even thought of Macho Man had never been asked this in an interview. He'd never done interview. He wasn't doing interviews. He wasn't on air. And when the question came up about what really happened with Stephanie McMahon, I went off like, I don't remember a thing, but if Hunter's got a problem with calling me a dinosaur, me and him can go at it. And then me and Stephanie can take another walk around the block. Yeah. And I was like, really, like, I was pushing it, I was really stiff in the interview. And like, as a comedian, going for the best joke all the time, going for, the most shocking, how could I be the most shocking, get the most attention? And I'll never forget, this is the weird part. This is the way my brain perceives it as weird after. So Macho Man died within a week and a half of that. And I got paranoid. Like, what did we do? What did I do? Like, did I get Macho Man killed because I said all that shit on air? And it was messing my head up. It was just the way my brain works that I was like, I said all that shit. Did I get him killed? This is so weird that he just ends up dead all of a sudden. And this is the way, it's sad, but I'm sorry, but this is just the way explaining the story of how I was thinking about it. And, it was almost like, it was like an acid trip when I watched Raw the next week, and Bret Hart is a guest on Raw that week. And CM Punk is dressed in Macho Man's tights that week in, paying respects to Macho Man. That's the show where they put on the little 2-minute segment on Macho Man. But that show, Bret was on that show. And at the end of the show, they have Bret put CM Punk in the sharpshooter while CM Punk's got the Macho Man tights on. And I swear, the way my brain got so paranoid about it was like, they're telling me I did this. Because now it's got Bret putting Macho in the sharpshooter, like I'm the one who did this. Anyway, so that's just a story to explain how messed up the mind can be sometimes when you've got mental illness and you got paranoid thoughts, and your mind can really go out there. And so, yeah, I'll never forget that. Always stuck with me that I regretted doing that interview as Macho Man and some of the things I said. And then unfortunately he passed away.
I mean, but don't beat yourself up too bad. I mean, that's when that's just some guilt, that you were just doing what you thought. Who is to know? I mean, if Billy Gunn dies next week, I don't think Charlie should feel bad about that. He would whip his ass, so
we weren't really shooting on Billy too hard.
Yeah,
Billy with Billy, I tweeted him once when I was going cuckoo on Twitter, Billy, you were an asshole to me. And Billy was like, you know what? If I was, I'm sorry. And let's go for a beer when I see you next. So it's like, he's a good guy. It's like, I felt all stupid for going off on him. But anyway, so like, I don't have any heat with these guys. I don't think Charlie was really heating on.
No, I'm just saying, when you mention someone's name and then they turn up, having an unfortunate end.
That's good.
Yeah, there's going to be some guilt. It's like when if you get in a fight with your parent and then they end up passing away. It's always hard when there's when you end on a sour note. So I wouldn't feel too much guilt if I were you, Jason. I think Macho would forgive you, and that it was all in good fun.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I'm still trying to wrap my brain around the fact that you were Bret and Flair. And that I just knew it was Bret. And I was like, oh, well,
that's my story.
And I sat there and I think about it.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Let's hear a conversation between Bret and Sean.
Oh, okay. We used to do this in Memphis a lot. It was Bret and Sean would do knock jokes. Like,
yeah.
Hey, Bret, I got a joke. Okay, Sean, go ahead. Knock, knock. Who's there? Hatch. Hatch who? Bless you. Good one, Sean.
I love it, man. I fucking love it. Oh man. Man. But don't feel bad, because you know what? They could have had going back to Bret Hart putting him in the sharpshooter. They could have had CM Punk dropping the elbow, but to pay homage to fucking, to Macho Man and dropping the elbow on Bret, So
yeah,
so.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I think that's how the show went. Well, maybe Punk was heel at that time, so yeah, who knows? But anyway, it's just how crazy I looked at it at the time. But I'm nuts. The guy passed away from a heart attack tragically. So,
Yeah.
That's just part of my issues. We've been working on that for years, trying to find the right meds for me. But
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll figure it out. There's some complications. Yeah.
Right. No, you're right. You're right, man. And it is mental awareness month here too. So let's take let's just let people know. I mean, there's people out there that have mental issues or I suffer from depression at times too. So and from death and grief, I really never grieved over my brother and my dad. I just went right in, all work, but and a lot of that, if you don't get it out, so yeah, I'm the first man to talk about it. I mean, the divorce, everything, it was tough, because it's like another death, but yeah, I'm surrounded by death, but it's fun, but it is what it is. But hey, but so what about now, man? So you're up in Canada, and we reached out to you. How's it going up there with Canada? I mean, I know in order for me to go to Canada, because I've been offered to go up there wrestle, I got to get vaccinated and stuff. Is it really strict up there? Are they still doing the masks? What's going on?
Yeah, I think they've laid off on a lot of the things. I think there's still some mask mandates just on some travel areas, but I think the mandates are gone in the restaurants and stuff. But yeah, no travel. I wanted to go see my friend Tyrone. I wanted to go maybe visit his mom with him in Ireland, and can't even leave. So because I'm not vaccinated, I can't leave. So yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you something, and it may be stereotypical, but a kid from Detroit, and you being in Canada, are you a hockey fan? Are you watching the playoffs, or are you one of those Canadians that can't stand it because it's all you hear about?
No, I'm not a huge hockey fan, but I'll go into it, towards the end. Still waiting for the Leafs to get in.
Jason, I know when the mandates and all that gets lifted, man, I'd love to have you come down. We started opening up SW 360 August 13th, and Kevin Sullivan's booking it. We got a great Nick's going to be really doing a lot of editing and production. But man, we'd love to bring you in because as a mainstay too, because I mean, you got so much talent to offer that in people, man, it's a whole new generation now, and with all social media, I mean, they didn't even scratch the surface yet when they meet you. I mean, there's so much you can do. So I mean, whenever that's lifted, man, or whenever you feel like you want to come down, please, I mean, just reach out, because you always got a place at my house for it, man. Always.
Oh, thank you very much, Charlie. Appreciate that. Same here. Anytime you're in Toronto, just stay at my place. You're always welcome here, brother.
Cool, man. I know, and that's one thing we want to do once we get it going. We want to be able to get SWE. I like to get them in other countries. That way, just so to showcase what we can do. And what we're going to try to do different is we're going to separate the locker rooms, and we're just going to call it out in the ring. It's I mean, have you watched the product today? Are you up to watching it all, or
Yeah,
what do you think?
From time to time, yeah, I look at it from time to time. I miss the older days. I miss the '80s, the way it was in the '80s and the '90s. But I still enjoy the product, and I respect the workers, and I respect the evolution of wrestling. How hard the workers work nowadays. I mean, it's just evolved and evolved. It's become such a harder sport. So I have a lot of respect for it, but I miss a lot of the just the way I miss a lot of the spectacle of it. And
so when you were at WWE or WWF, so you were coming in right. Could you feel the transition between the Monday Night Wars? I mean, because you were part of that. That's something we didn't touch base. We should have touched base earlier. So how was that with the Monday Night Wars, man? I mean, because I know they said at times they would have a monitor up there that was showing WCW why theirs was going on. Because I know at the time, you know, when Bischoff, okay, you were there with Mankind. Were you there when when Bischoff went ahead and said and told everyone that he was going to win the title anyways? I mean, let's talk about that. I mean, you know, the stuff that they talk about on the Monday Night War, DVD or whatever, you know, when you get on Peacock. But let's hear backstage from you, man. What did you feel and see?
Oh, thanks. Well, I do have an interesting story as it comes to me personally with the Monday Night Wars.
Okay.
You might find interesting. This is one of those things that, hindsight 2020, you look back on everything. And this is one of those things, it's a big one. It's like if I had a time machine, I would definitely go back and make this decision. I would change this decision. But so yeah, it was crazy. It was going on at the time. So I was just getting in when WWE was just starting to take over, when Vince and Austin were starting to have their feud, and they were just turning the table on winning the war. So that's when I was coming in. I'll never forget when I did the whole segment with Owen Hart, and I dressed up with DX. I came out, and then we did with the segment the week after with Owen and the Nation and the Sharpshooter. I was being flown out to shows, and I wasn't under any contract whatsoever. They were just like, just say whatever to get over the border, That's kind of what stopped me, was because I had Titan Sports flight tickets, and I kept saying, I'm just going to see my uncle, So I was doing all this stuff on TV, didn't have a contract. And then I got caught at the border with the wrestling fans and immigrations recognizing me from the TV. They pulled me off a flight. I was going to be consistently on Raw. So I was going to be dressing up as Shamrock on this Raw and turning Shamrock heel. I couldn't get over the border now. They stopped me. I couldn't even fly to Raw. So I've been screwed over. I got screwed over so bad. And so it screwed my whole gimmick, and I just had to go home. But at this point, I had to go home, and I hadn't been signed anything. I'll never forget, Hunter calls me and says, Barry Bloom wants to sign you. He's an agent. He wants to sign you. So just want to let you know, I gave him your number. So I'm like, okay. So I was like, oh, cool, agent. So anyway, then I get a call not too long after from Vince Russo. It's, bro, Vince doesn't want you to sign with Barry Bloom. Bro, he is pissed at Hunter. Bro, he's so pissed at Hunter for calling you. Bro, Vince is going to take care of you if you don't sign with Barry Bloom. So I'm just, this is my dream come true, coming to this company, and it's all coming true, a lifelong dream being fulfilled. And I was like, yeah, no problem, Russo. You tell Mr. McMahon I'm going with him for sure. Yeah, okay. And he kept his word. They signed me to a contract, and they filled out the whole contract. And I think maybe I made $25,000 a year in that contract. But if I had signed with Barry Bloom at that time, I had already been on TV with WWE. I was huge. Right in that moment, it was my peak. I was on with DX. I had done all these voices. Now, if Barry Bloom goes to Bischoff and, hey, we got this guy, and he can do all WWE's guys, Bischoff would have paid me a lot more than $25,000 a year. And it turned out that I would only go that 3-year contract, and I would never get another opportunity again in WWE. Like, I'll say up to this point, because we're still here and now, right? But anyway, so in hindsight, it's like, man, I should have signed and possibly made that switch, because I had already done everything I was going to do in WWE,
Yeah. Thanks, Vince. Another creative writer, fucking a wrestler. That's why. No, I'm serious, man. I get more fucking douchebags like, hey, I want to send you a sample of my writing. Don't bother. I'm not looking for creative writers. This is fucking pro wrestling. I need people that have been in the ring with greats, So fucking just don't worry about it. I've never met Vince Russo. I really don't give a fuck. But it's just another creative writer that thinks I created pro wrestling. No, the workers created pro wrestling. It's because you ruined pro wrestling. So fuck you. So there. What's Vince Russo going to do? Shoot on me, please.
Jason, great interview. This was so much fun. I got to ask you, you're growing up a Canadian wrestling fan. I'm sure you got tons of memories. I want you to dial the clock back, if you will, to Jason Child Sensation, WrestleMania 6. Were you for Hulk Hogan or were you for the Ultimate Warrior?
Oh, nice. Good question. I was rooting for the Hulkster that night. You know what's funny is I don't have it handy, but the Toronto, there was our newspaper, the Toronto Sun. They came and tried to interview my mom because she was buying so much merchandise, and she's like, "No, you got to interview my son Jason. He's the crazy wrestling fan." So anyway, in that Sky Dome newspaper, we got Warrior on the cover with the 2 belts. And you flip the page, and it's me. I'm on the second page of the Sun with this newspaper interview. So I was always proud of that. It was like
That's
my
awesome.
first connection was the Night Warrior one. But yeah, I was sad that night.
That's awesome.
And that article talks about this kid dreams of being the next Mean Gene and whatever. So it's pretty.
That's awesome. Hey, can I ask you, like, with history in Toronto wrestling, do you remember watching like Sweet Daddy Siki? And I'm sure you know Ron Hutchinson and all the greats he's trained, like Edge and so. When you were younger, do you remember going to those local shows and seeing those guys?
Yeah, I think I just missed them. I watched a lot of the house shows for the Fed, but I'd seen Ron with WWF a few times. Yeah, but I ended up training in Ron Hutchinson's school, so he's the one who trained me to work. So yeah, it was we were pretty close. Yeah. Anyway, so I ended up pretty close with Ron Hutchinson. And Sweet Daddy Siki has a karaoke place up just right near my place. And I went up there with Bret Hart and his wife, and me and my brother, and Bret and his wife, our buddy Bert the Hurt. And we did karaoke. And we went up after being wasted on tequilas. We went up there and sang Sweet Caroline. I got a video of Bret Hart and his wife Stephanie.
That's awesome, man. I mean, you went out to dinner with Bret Hart.
I'm really close
awesome,
with
man.
Bret. Bret's been a real
That's great.
friend over the years. Yeah, he's been a good guy like you. He's a good dude, Charlie. Yeah, really
Yeah,
nice
man.
guy. Real good heart, a good friend. A lot of the members of the Hart family I'm good friends with. So yeah, they're wonderful people. Blessed to know them. Bret's a really wonderful. Genuine's a great word. He's really down to earth, good person. I'm blessed to know him.
Good, man. No, I mean, that's good to hear because I've only met him one time, and it was for an independent over in England, and he was really very nice, a gentleman, man, a great guy. But Jason, man, thank you for your friendship over the time, man. And some of the best therapy was he would do my brother. I'd call after Russ passed. I'm like, dude, my brother, you got to hear his voice, And we won't go into that, but I mean, I remember that was some of the best therapy, and that's how our friendship goes back that far away. So, man, thank you for everything, and definitely gonna stay in touch, and man, and I mean, I love you, brother. I really do.
I love you too very much, Charlie. Thank you so much. And yeah, I miss your brother so much. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I watched that. I watched you go right away, and I always worried about that. But I was like, I know you two. Yeah, you were two peas in a pod. You were too close. It was just it's rare you find brothers so close. And him and Deidre, it was just so heartbreaking. Yeah. I'm really sorry. I never really we never got to hug it out for that. So yeah, but I love you so much.
Thanks, man.
You've had my back so much, and I love you, brother. And yeah, you're always my brother, Charlie. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Take it away, Aaron.
Yeah, you go.
Without a shadow of a doubt, an incredibly enjoyable interview, very entertaining. Thank you to Jason Sensation. Thank you to Endicott Coffee, micro roasted coffee, globally sourced, crafted with care out of Tacoma, Washington. Check out their link in the description. I'll tell you what, I had a blast. Thank you so much, Jason Sensation. And on behalf of everybody here at the Hoss Pod at Wrestling's Greatest Podcast, I'm Aaron Presley. We'll see you next time.